Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Anchorage, Alaska College and Career Fair Virtual College Fair. We have a panel for this session going on. We have a wonderful, wonderful panelist here to talk a little bit about navigating financial aid and that beautiful acronym FAFSA that we all love to talk about. But before we get started, I want to quick introduce myself. My name is Sibel. I will be your facilitator for this session. So if our panelists needs anything, they will go ahead and contact me, but I'll be here keeping an eye, but also learning a few things myself. But before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. Remember, this is a webinar style formatted type of panel. So what that means is that you are muted and your video is turned off as an attendee, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. So you're probably wondering, well, Sibel, how do I ask my really important questions? And that in and of itself is a great question, but I have the answer to it. So you're going to be asking those questions in that Q&A button. So in that Zoom toolbar, I think somewhere in the middle, there is a Q&A button that you can click on, and you can type your questions to the presenter at any point in time throughout the session. Now, the session is only about 40 to 45 minutes long, so please make sure to ask those questions throughout and do not wait until the last minute. Also, sign up for more sessions. There is another panel going on after this one, so check the schedule on the website to sign up for any more college presentations. And remember, if you would like to relive the fun with us, a recording will be available. All the sessions are being recorded, and they will be available at strivescan.com/Alaska. Without further ado, I'd love to get started with our Navigating Financial Aid panel. I'll invite Tony back in. And if you need me, I am here. Thank you so much.
Hello. Thank you so much, Sobel, for that wonderful introduction. And my name is Tony Acco, and I am a financial aid counselor at the University of Alaska Anchorage. And I appreciate being here today to welcome you into the wonderful world of financial aid. And so I am going to just introduce you to financial aid. Sorry, I'm just going to get my screen going and tell you all about it. So 1 second, and share it with you, my PowerPoint file. All right, so I'm just going to start by what is financial aid for college? It encompasses two pretty broad areas: federal financial aid, which is what we call Title IV aid, which includes the federal Pell Grant, the federal Educational Opportunity Grants, federal subsidized loans, federal unsubsidized loans, and then there's this kind of special area of military and veterans benefits, which are not Title IV aid, but they are a special type of aid. And then we have institutional and private aid, which is in this other second bubble. That's scholarships, merit-based scholarships, athletic scholarships, academic scholarships, and achievement-based scholarships. And then there's need-based scholarships, which are based on the information that comes from your FAFSA. So this is financial aid for college. And I put these in two different bubbles because there's sometimes people get all in one big picture. They all lump it all together, and they're two different things. And your school financial aid office really deals with the federal financial aid in that Title IV bubble. And institutional private aid comes, it will be paid through your financial aid office, but it's not necessarily awarded by your financial aid office. And that's important to know, and it's a kind of a helpful hint as you're going forward. So this FAFSA that Sabel mentioned, the free application for federal student aid. This is the application or the introduction to the Pell Grant, subsidized loans, unsubsidized loans, Parent Plus loans, and some scholarships require you to have a FAFSA on file. And they do that because they want to know your need. And the estimated family contribution comes from the free application for federal student aid. They want to know what your family's income is and your family size. So it's not just how much money your family makes, but how many people in the family there are in that family that are reliant on that income. And so it's what kinds of federal aid your family qualifies for. And then some states also have aid that is based on the outcome of the FAFSA. And there are some institutions that base their aid based on the outcome of your FAFSA. So students will also ask, which FAFSA do I do? Because in many times of the year, there are 2 FAFSAs available, like right now. You can still complete the 21-22 FAFSA that will help you get aid for this upcoming spring semester and the upcoming summer semester. Then the 22-23 FAFSA is available for students who are looking to start school in the fall of 21 or 22-23. So you can complete both applications. If you're looking at potentially starting classes in the summer of 22, you also may want to consider completing the 21-22 FAFSA because your institution will be able to pull aid from the best way possible. So completing both is it will not hurt you to complete both. If you're not sure, you can talk to your federal financial aid. If you're not sure, talk to the financial aid office at the school that you're planning to attend. But like I said, there's no cost to it. It's just a matter of taking some time. And so once you've completed your FSA ID and password, it is not it's not a big deal to do both. So I do recommend going ahead and filling out both. The FAFSA opens on October 1st of every year. And so completing it early is to your benefit because there are some programs, institutional aid, state aid, for example, that will benefit you for doing it early. They have contests and scholarships that are for students who apply for aid early. And so I recommend completing as soon as you can. Because it's open on October 1st, that's why they do taxes for the 2 years prior. So as you can see, the 21-22 FAFSA required taxes for 2019, and the 22-23 FAFSA required taxes for 2020. So getting help with the FAFSA. If you're an Alaska resident, there's the Alaska Commission on Post-Secondary Education. They have a virtual FAFSA work Wednesdays with our walk-in sessions on their Zoom. So from 3 to 6 p.m. on Wednesdays, students can go with no appointment necessary. They just hop into the Zoom meeting and ask for some help. The Federal Student Aid website, you can go to studentaid.gov/help-center//contact to get help there. They have an 800 number. You can contact them between 4 a.m. and 7 p.m. Alaska Standard Time, and 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. Saturday and Sunday Alaska time. They have a live chat, and this assistance is always available in order to help you get your FSA ID and password. If you're having a hard time, there is assistance online, but you can get help from them if there's a problem. If you think there's a technical issue on the website, you can contact them. You can also always contact the school you're planning to attend. There's also, my YouTube video is not working here for some reason. But there's also a FAFSA walkthrough video on YouTube that's put together by studentaid.gov, and it's really neat. So you can go on YouTube and look up FAFSA walkthrough video. For some reason, I'm having a technical issue here. I don't know if Sybelle knows why that's happening. But it is put together by the FAFSA folks, and so it shows you kind of each step. It also will tell you about the Irs Data Retrieval tool, which is a huge piece and can be very, very helpful for you. To me, the hardest part of the FAFSA is figuring out exactly what to put in the financials. But if you use the Irs Data Retrieval tool, it'll be easier for you and for your parents. And so when it's asking you for that permission to connect to the IRS, I always recommend to students to use that. how do I get a scholarship? I recommend you start early. Right now, between October 1st and February 15th is the prime scholarship time this time of year for students who will receive scholarships for next fall. So it's definitely something that you have to plan for. Even juniors this year could be starting to look for scholarships for their first academic year in college. So starting early, and I say make it your job to apply for scholarships. Spend time. The more time you spend, the more money you'll receive. And having a teacher or a mentor assist you with a well-written application, making sure your essay is well-written, well-written not just grammatically, but it's a story that draws in the reader, that it makes them believe in you and want to spend money on you because it's an investment in you. And this bullet point about protecting your identity and watching for scams, they recommend that you utilize reputable search engines. I'll share one with you in the chat before we're done. To protect your personally identifiable information, there are reputable. College Board is an example of one you may have heard of, but we also have the Siri Foundation has a list of scholarships. That's great. And we also recommend that students have an email address that you use for applying for scholarships to minimize the spam, because there are some. And Alaska Performance Scholarship. This is one that folks are very excited about. Let me just. So for the Alaska Performance Scholarship, we know Alaska high school graduates are eligible based on their minimum high school degree, minimum high school curriculum, GPA, college placement, or work race, exam scores. As far as we know, the college placement tests and work keys are still being waived, but you do have to complete the FAFSA prior to June 30th and be in a degree seeking program to receive the APS, the Alaska Performance Scholarship. You can use it at any participating college or university within Alaska, or for a approved career and tech program in the state. It must be used within 6 years of graduation, and it pays out over 8 semester award amounts. The amounts vary. I have that information if you want more details. But more details, if you need details specifically, you can speak to your school counselor or create an account at acpesecure.alaska.gov and select and enroll to track your own eligibility. So the way that APS works, it's not an award that you receive from the actual college, it's an award you receive from the state. And the Department of Education actually receives information from your high school saying that you're eligible. Then the Department of Education sends it to the state, and then the state sends it to us. So these don't start going out to student accounts until the summer. So if you receive your initial financial aid award letter and don't see the APS on it, it's because you may be receiving your financial aid award letter based on the FAFSA that you completed in October or November or December or February, and we don't get the Alaska Performance Scholarship information until well after you're done with graduation and summer. And so just know that sometimes you'll receive award information later in the year. And that's true not just for UAA, but for all the colleges, because Department of Education processes that stuff with the state over the summer. Sorry. All right, satisfactory academic progress is something that I like to speak to high school students about, as well as current students, because I know that many high school students are go-getters, and they do something called dual enrollment. And so they'll take classes in high school at their college of choice. And so they will have some university classes already under their belt, and then they don't realize that if they didn't do well in those high school classes, that those are already those dual enrolled classes, those are already counting against them toward for satisfactory academic performance. So in order to continue to receive federal financial aid, you have to maintain these three aspects of satisfactory academic performance. So a 2.0 cumulative GPA, a 67% completion ratio, and 150% maximum time frame. So where we see this happening for high school students coming into the college arena after being duly enrolled is sometimes that 67% completion ratio or the 2.0 cumulative GPA. So this is all university classes taken in high school do count. Now, if you attend one high school or one college as dual enrolled and you go to another, that GPA isn't going to follow you. That cumulative completion rate isn't going to follow you. It's only at the institution when you're attending, but all the UA schools work together on this. So if you were duly enrolled at UAF and then you come to UAA, all those classes count. So 67% completion if you took 3 classes duly enrolled and you only completed one of them, then you did not complete the 67% ratio. Or if your cumulative GPA is not 2.0, then you're not meeting satisfactory academic progress before you ever were a enrolled student. And so this is something to be thinking about as you take dual enrolled classes. Each student gets a warning semester if they're not in satisfactory academic progress. So if you did this one semester in high school, then your first semester you would be in warning status. So you just want to check with us if you did do dual enrollment and find out what your SAP, it's called SAP, what your SAP status is. There is an appeal process and we can work with you on the appeal process, but it's just something to be thinking about if you did that and to check in with us and find out where you're at. Where do I get help if I need it? So after you've completed the FAFSA, you should rely on your Office of Financial Aid on whatever college you're planning on attending for assistance. They can help you with understanding and accepting your financial aid package. So what has been offered to you? How do you use it? How do you receive it? They'll help you with verifications. Verifications are something 1 in 5 students are asked to verify the information on their FAFSA. It's not because you did anything wrong, it's just 1 in 5 students gets picked. They can help you with something called an income override. As I said, your taxes, we're using taxes from 2 years previous. A lot of things happen in 2 years. So if there was a significant change to your family income in the, from the 2020 taxes or the 2019 tax year, and you need to change that information, or you need to submit an income override, you can't. So that's if there's been a job loss, a divorce, if there's been a death in the family, if there's been medical expenses that are over 11% of the income that are not covered by insurance, those kinds of things. We do have a way to help that. And that's pretty much every college has some kind of income override process. Documenting the dependency override. So if you answered yes on the FAFSA to the questions that make you independent prior to the age of 24, you're required to provide the documentation. And so your financial aid office can help with that. So these are the questions about being in foster care, questions about a guardian, if you have a guardian, questions about being homeless, those questions, you are required to provide documentation for that. So if you have a question or special circumstances, if you can't provide parental information for some reason, you would contact your financial aid office. And general inquiries, just what's next, you would contact the Office of Financial Aid at the institution where you're planning on attending school. And so we just want to stress, we have a lot of students who will say, okay, I did my FAFSA, so I did my financial aid, and that's partially true, but there's additional steps. You want to, it's accepting loans, it's making sure you're taking enough classes to receive loans if you're doing that. It's making sure you understand you received the Pell Grant, but the amount changes. The Pell Grant is a grant that is prorated based on enrollment. And so it's understanding all of those pieces and making sure you read all of that when you receive your award. So it's the start, it's not the end. So working with a financial aid team on your campus so that you know your best options. That's really the key. All right. So I really like to make sure I have time for questions. I know that's a lot of information, and potentially I try not to go too fast, but what are the things that you all need answered? Oh, and I'm going to want to share with you a resource. So I just shared to everyone this a resources handbook. That this is in the chat. That this is the Siri Foundation puts together a education resources handbook. This includes lots of information about scholarships, grants, internships. So they have not for the 20 for the 20 or the 21-22 academic year, they did not count the ACT, the SAT, or the work piece as part of the APS. They have not said whether or not they're going to count them for the 22-23 academic year yet. But as far as we know, they haven't really said. My instinct would be that they're not again, but we haven't said, we have not heard. So I would talk to your school counselor and see if they have heard anything different. The 21, they didn't for 20 and 21. Yes, you can apply for as many scholarships and financial scholarships and grants as you can find. What happens is you're allowed to receive aid up to your cost of attendance. So when you receive your financial aid package, it'll have a big number on there, somewhere around $26,000. A lot of folks call us and say, "What? My bill's $26,000? That's not. We're not going to bill you $26,000. That's your cost of attendance. That's how much we anticipate UAA. That's typically a ballpark cost of attendance. That's a year's worth of room and board, books, transportation, tuition and fees, everything together. So you can receive need-based aid, or you can receive aid up to that $26,000 before we ever start. That's the goal, is to get you up to that. That's your cost of attendance. That's how much scholarships we can get you up to. Need-based aid. So the Pell Grant, things like that can only be up to a certain point. But does that make sense? It's hard. Sorry that I can't. So your goal is to try and get out there and get as much as you can. So when you receive your award letter, it's going to explain to you what is need-based and what is so unsubsidized loans are not need-based aid. but subsidized loans and Pell Grant are need-based aid. So that's a great question. If the FAFSA is, the only time the FAFSA is denied, it's only if they have information that is, so for example, if we get a social security number that doesn't match a name, then it would be considered denied or declined in that case. But that's when we work with you to do a verification, and you can say, oh, so for example, I had this happen recently where a student used their middle name because they like their middle name better. They use their middle name and their last name and their correct social security number. So what they ended up doing is working with us. They provided their social security number or social security card, their ID, and then we work to correct their FAFSA. And so stuff like that happens. But the FAFSA is not denied overall. It's just until those things are corrected, we need to do it. So unless there's a case of fraud, then typically the FAFSA works. Students who can be ineligible for aid based on not being a citizen or like an international student, but typically they're eligible for aid in some form or fashion as long as they are, the FAFSA will tell you you're eligible. Yeah, so the Alaska Performance Scholarship. Yeah, so the Alaska Performance Scholarship is for students who graduate with specific, they take specific coursework at Alaska high schools. So there's a worksheet, and if you want really specific details about the Alaska Performance Scholarship, I recommend that you look up the ACPE website, the Alaska Commission on Post-Secondary Education. So you can type in ACPE and then Alaska Performance Scholarship in Google, and it'll tell you exactly about the eligibility. But the Alaska Performance Scholarship must be used at an Alaska college because it comes from Alaska taxes. So it has to be used at an Alaska college. So it would not work in a college outside of Alaska. But students have to take particular curriculum in order to receive it, and they have to get a particular GPA. So there's two tracks of curriculum, and the high school counselors are really pretty well informed about this. But one is like a science and math curriculum, and one is a social sciences curriculum, I believe. And then they take, typically in the typical year, they also take the ACT or SAT and get a certain score. And then, or they can do a vocational track and get a smaller amount, and they do a 1-year certificate and get that. So that would be the Alaska Performance Scholarship. And like I said, if they do the college track on the Alaska Performance Scholarship, they get 8 semesters. They get paid over 8 semesters to do that. It doesn't have to be in a row, but 8 semesters. And there's a GPA requirement while they're in college as well. How soon does FAFSA, how soon does FAFSA respond? So it takes, so like right now we're getting the FAFSAs for students are doing in October. Right now they're doing them for 2022. We're not pulling them in quite yet, but we can typically get a FAFSA back in 2 weeks if it's but we're not processing them right now until we'll start pulling in next year's FAFSAs and sending students their award letters. So it's a pretty fast process. It just kind of depends on whether or not it's for the spring semester. So I'd say if you submit it, you will get some information back from FAFSA within a week. You'll probably get information back from the school that you're the school or schools. You can put up to 10 schools on the FAFSA. I would say you can probably hear back from them about within a month, I would say, maybe sometimes 2 months, depending on the time of the year. I'm sorry, the PCS can be, I'm not sure what you're referring to, the PCS. Are you talking about the Alaska Performance Scholarship after a certain number of in-state credits? The Alaska Performance Scholarship has to be completely used in state because it's all it's all paid for by tax money, and so that one is it's completely funded by the Alaska State Legislature, and so that's why that one is all required to be at a state university or at a university, a public university in the state of Alaska. As far as I know, you can check that one with the ACPE website, but everything that I've seen has been that one has to be at a four-year institute or at an institution in the state of Alaska, at a participating university in Alaska. But I will not say that I'm the end all be all of everything that there ever was about the APS, but as everything that I've read has been that it's because it's funded by the legislature, it has to be here. I would definitely recommend to everyone to check out that link that I put into the chat, that Siri Foundation handbook. That has an exhaustive list of links. It has the APS in there, but it also has all kinds of scholarships that have to do with our Native community, but it also has links to very local scholarships as well as statewide scholarships, and it also has some really good advice for applying for scholarships and just preparing yourself for scholarships. So this is a really good community resource foundation, community resource that's been put together by the Siri Foundation. So I try to share this wherever I can, and so I recommend that you click on that link and then save it somewhere on your computer. When you're out there looking for scholarships, I always tell people to start by considering what communities you belong to. You know, think about what do your parents, I can tell there's some parents on here. As parents, do you belong to a union? Do you belong to an organization that might have a scholarship fund? And then, you know, from there, find out what are the expectations. Are you an alumni of anything? And do they give scholarships? And then, you know, from there, have your student apply for those. Were you in a fraternity or sorority? Have your student apply for those scholarships that they do. And you know, what are those communities? You know, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, all of those things. Then have your child apply for those things. So what are the identities that fit with your student? And again, the Native corporations, all of those things, and then start applying. Because once you've identified those things that they fit, those are the scholarships that you want to start writing for. And that will help you to start gathering some resources beyond the federal Title IV aid. So, any other questions? Those are some great ones you all had in there. And never be afraid to ask for help with the FAFSA. Our vice chancellor recently was having the first opportunity to do the FAFSA with their child. and came to us and said, this is a lot more confusing than I anticipated. So don't feel alone if you're doing the process and find yourself being frustrated. It can be a little bit frustrating and confusing the first time you do it, making your FSA ID and password and getting kind of the system does get bogged down at this time of year. So no, it's not just you. So ask for help, call up your financial aid office. Most of the offices that I know are anticipating those calls and are ready for them and have ways to help you. That's why ACPE has that drop-in Zoom clinic. That's why the studentaid.gov has the chat feature and the 800 number. Our office certainly takes those calls and makes appointments to do Zoom one-on-one appointments with students to help them with their FAFSA. So find out if the office that the school you're planning on attending does that, because I can help you, and it takes out the frustration. So hopefully this was helpful.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Tony. Really do appreciate your expertise. I definitely learned a lot as well, even though a little far removed from being a student, but it's always good to have a refresher. So thank you so much for doing that for everybody. My attendees, thank you so much for joining as well. I know we had quite a bit of a mix in there of parents and students, and I hope you all learned from our fantastic presenter this evening. Remember, after you close out your window, a very quick 5-question survey will appear. Please give us some feedback. We really do appreciate it. And the words "very quick" are literally on your screen, so it will be very quick, okay? Sign up for more sessions, check us out. More college presentations and panels happening. And also remember, if you'd like to relive the fun or check out this information again, the recording will be available at strivescan.com/Alaska. With that said, you all, thank you again so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. Bye, Tony. Thank you.